Good afternoon. Probably for you, most of you, good evening. Maybe good morning. I don't know. Let's cover all the good, all the good bases. How are you this afternoon? I hope that you're well. Sorry, I just have to do a weather check. I'm Laura. I am in the south of England, on the south coast, where it's nice and grey this afternoon, which is lovely, which I'm enjoying immensely. But it's very nice to have you here with me today. Okay, so I hope that we are all listening carefully. We've got a busy hour. We have got a very busy hour ahead of us. So I hope that you're prepared to work hard, to concentrate, and to do a little bit of grammar. Grammar is always great fun, isn't it? So let's have a look at what we will be studying today. 1 second. I'm just going to press a little button here. Okay. So we are going to be looking at something which is actually both grammar and vocabulary. I know, it's blown your mind, hasn't it? Yeah. So hello from West Africa. How exciting! Hello, and hello, Mohammed. I don't know where you're from, but hello as well. Oh, see, I'm so excited. I forgot to share my PowerPoint. There we go. That's what happens when I have a hello from Benin Republic. My PowerPoint gets very excited as well. Very nice to have you here with me. Thank you for being here this afternoon. So we're going to be looking at the passive. Everyone loves the passive, but it's really very, very important. As I said before, it is a crossover between vocabulary and grammar. That's not something that's unique to the passive. Higher levels of English, there often is a big connection between grammar and vocabulary. Hello from Cambodia. Wow, this is great. I'm like an airport this afternoon. This is very exciting. So we're going to be looking at the passive. Now, the introduction here says that this is focusing on a key area for part 1 and part 2 of the IELTS writing exam. That's absolutely true. But we, in particular today, are going to be focusing on the use of the passive in part 1. Okay, so what we do will absolutely be important and very useful for both part 1 and part 2. But our particular focus today is looking at how it can make a really positive impact with part 1. Okay, so excuse me just zooming around sharing my screens, but I just want to show you this lovely document. Now, for those of you who have been in classes before with me, you will know that I am really keen on making you know exactly what examiners are looking out for. Okay, it's really very, very important. In the listening and in the reading, it's completely objective. Okay. A machine marks it for you, actually, a computer marks it. So it doesn't really matter who the audience is. Well, the audience is technology. But very important with the speaking and with the writing, you need to appeal subjectively to an examiner. Okay, so we need to know very, very clearly what examiners do want to see, and also, not to be negative, we also need to know what they don't want to see as well. And the best way of doing that is to refer to the documents directly from IELTS. IELTS are really good, actually, because they're very clear to teachers and to students what you need to do to get those bands. So let me show you. Let's have it. Well, we're looking mostly at part 1 today. So let's just have a quick look here. So this is a lovely document. It's very clear. 1 second. We need to look at this. Okay. So this is, and I have to make this a little bit smaller. It's too big. There we go. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to disappear. Hello from Bangladesh. Very good. I'm traveling around this afternoon, aren't I? Okay, I'm going to disappear, but this document is more important than my head. So 1 second. There we go. Make it nice and big. Okay. So these are what we call the band descriptors. Okay. So really, really important. These are how you are graded. So you can see down the side here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Everyone's aiming for a 9, aren't they? Yes, of course we are. And across the top, we have the 4 areas here that the mark is constructed of. Okay, so we have got task achievement. Okay, it's called task response for part 2, but it's the same kind of idea. Basically, have you done what you have been asked to do? Which I'm sure you have. Coherence and cohesion. Well, we know by now this is something that I'm very keen about. This is 25% of your mark. Have you organized your answer in a way that's accessible to the reader, that's sequenced intelligently, and does it make sense? Okay. So these 2 here are the ones sometimes students aren't quite as familiar with. These 2 here are the ones which are perhaps a little bit more familiar to you. Lexical resource, well, that's just vocabulary, and grammar, range, and accuracy. So let's have a look at the, I'm going to get my colored pens out, very exciting. Okay, so if we have a look, say 6 upwards, that's what we're going for here, wiggly purple line. All right, so, and if we focus on grammar here, you'll see, I didn't want it to be upside down, did I? There you go, 1 second. I wanted it to be big. Okay, so you'll see for the grammatical range and accuracy, what you need to do is, you see this word is used over and over again. Complex and complex. Wide range. A wide range. Okay. So we've got some synonym practice for you here. Mix, variety, wide range, wide range. So a wide range and a variety are a mix, but it means a bigger mix, if you like. So what you need to do to move up from a level 5 is you actually need to make sure that you're using what the examiners class as complex structures. Wide structures if we go up to 8 and 9, which hopefully we will be. This basically means that you need to be writing in a way which shows that you have a very, very high level of awareness of English language. Not just you have a high level of awareness, but you're actually able to use it flexibly yourself. And one very important grammatical point that you need to be able to demonstrate, basically to get a 6 and above, is that you are comfortable and that you're competent using the passive. Okay, great. Right, this is going to disappear. I'm going to come back. Okay, so it's hi, oh, hello, Jenny. Nice to see you. So it's very important that you are able to use the passive. It's important in the essay, for reasons I'll come to in a second, because it's what we call a convention of formal academic English. Okay, so when you write formally for a newspaper, for a university, you are expected to be able to use and will use the passive. It's just something that we need to be aware of, and you need to use it. Now, of course, not every sentence is going to be in the passive. That would be ridiculous, and your essays and your part 1 writings would not be very good. But you do need to use it to an extent. Okay, so today we are going to go through some of the rules of the passive, and we're going to focus on part 1. The reason we're going to focus on part 1 is because arguably I think it's more difficult in some ways to do really well and show the full extent of your language in part 1 than it is in part 2. Because part 1 is a shorter task. And also, it's quite a functional task. It will be, Mohammed. Yes, I'll get to that in 1 second. It is, you are constricted by the amounts of words, but you still need to show in those amounts of words that your English language awareness is very, very good. And that's quite difficult because the tasks, they're not basic, but they don't give you the same opportunity to really show the extent of your language as a part 2 essay does. Okay, so let's have a look. I'm just going to share a document with you now. 1 second. Okay, my PDF here. Lovely. Great. Okay. So I hope you can see that nice and clearly. So, as I said before, it's absolutely a convention of English language, formal academic writing, that we use the passive. Okay. So examiners, honestly, are going to very much, it's a requirement basically for you to do very well, for you to show that you're comfortable using it. Okay. So let's have a quick, really quick as well. I'm going to disappear again. I'll be back 1 second. Let's have a quick overview of how the passive's used. I'm going to make this big so you can all see it. Okay. So we use it. One of the first uses is when the person completing the action is unknown. It doesn't matter who they are. For example, here, the document was handed to the police. The focus is on the action, not on the person handing the document. We also use it when it's obvious. Wind power is used more than solar power. Okay. Now, a really common mistake that people make in the IELTS is to say by people. Okay, you don't do that. It doesn't make examiners happy, and if we don't have a happy examiner, your mark is going to be reflective of that. So don't say wind power is used more than solar power. It's obvious. Only people consume electricity. We also use it when we're referring to what we call an unspecified group. Okay. So this is a really useful little bit of language here. I'm going to get 2 highlights on the go here. It is thought that the government should. Okay. Now, the passive structure here. Is this one here. It is thought. But I want you to focus on this fixed expression here. This is the type of thing that's going to really increase your mark. Okay? It is thought that the government should. Often we're very personal when we are writing essays, and we shouldn't be. It's formal, not just writing about what we believe, we're writing more broadly than that. So it is thought that the government should improve. Now, we don't say here who thinks it, okay? It's this group of people. But we're saying it's a general statement, and general statements are very powerful when you want to do well in your writing for part 2, because that's when we're writing essays, it's not just about our opinion, it's about the opinion of groups of people. So we also use it this is very similar actually to the first point here. When the person completing the action is just less important than the action itself. The decision was made by the committee. So it doesn't matter who the individual person is. What is important is that the decision was made. It is thought. These highlights do have a purpose, by the way. Come to that in a moment. And here we go. When the writer or speaker wants to add focus. Okay. So somebody, let me check who was it? Farhan. Hi, Farhan. Farhan asked a very good question about word ordering. What examiners want to see now, we looked before, didn't we, at the use of wide range, mix, and variety. Examiners will want to see both, Farhan. Okay, so they will want to see that you're using the passive, but they'll also want to see that you're using active sentences as well. Because what it does is it changes the focus of what you are drawing the attention of the reader, or if we're speaking, the listener to. So have a look at this sentence here. The first one is active. Trees produce more oxygen. We've got a verb. So, excuse me, we have a subject, we have a verb, and we have an object. Brilliant. Nice and straightforward. Here, the word trees is used first because we want the person who's reading it to focus on trees. Trees produce more oxygen. Marvelous. But in the second sentence, can you see that the object is now the subject? So we don't want the first point in the sentence to be about trees. In this case, we want it to be about oxygen. So we've got more oxygen is produced by trees. Okay, so it's to do with mixing it up. Now, I've highlighted in blue the passive structures here. Very good. Now, you can see that each of them, I'm going to try and write with this, which is always interesting. My writing in real life is very good. It's using, that looks like a logo. It's using the verb to be. Was, is, was, is. So to make the passive, we always use the verb to be. But we change it depending on the time that we're talking about. So here, was, that's the past, is the present. Now, we don't just use it with the present and the past, and we do use it quite a lot with the present and the past. But we change the verb to be to reflect the time, the tense that we're talking about. Great. So, excuse me, there is a lot of value in, let's make this super big, in using the passive voice for giving opinions. Okay, so these are high value phrases. Examiners like these a lot because they are formal and they are academic. And as I said before, they are giving opinions, but they're not just giving your opinions. It's talking about groups of people. So here we've got 3 useful expressions. First one, it is believed. Second, it is thought. And the third, are often viewed. Now, these are really useful anywhere in an essay, but they're especially useful in introductions. Now, whilst you are expected to hold and express opinions of your own in the essay, the passive really needs to be used at some point. Okay, introductions and topic sentences are very, very useful for using the passive. Topic sentences are the first sentence of a paragraph, a mini introduction, if you like, to the paragraph that's going to come. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to zoom back. Very good. Very good. Okay. Zooming out again. Now, one part of the slightly smaller. Okay. So we're going to leave the essay for a moment. Okay. One of the tasks that you might get asked to complete for part one is a process. Okay. So here, this is a process of producing cocoa. So we have got 12 stages here. Tree, pods, beans being fermented, being spread in the sun to dry, put in sacks, transported by train or lorry, taken to a factory, being roasted, being crushed. There we go. Liquid chocolate. Okay. So this is typical of a process that you could get asked to describe in part one. Now, for me, I think it can be quite an easy task. Now, remember, the IELTS is for people whose level of English is very low, and whose level of English is pretty much like a standard of a first language speaker. So it has to be, in a way, quite easy on first appearance, because otherwise people wouldn't be able to do it. And by those people, I mean those people whose level of English is much lower than probably yours is. This is fine, but I think there is a bit of an issue when you are aiming for a very high score. Because, okay, part one is only 33, it's a third of your mark, 33% of your mark. But also, I could say it's only 33% of your mark, but I could also say to you, but it is 33% of your mark as well. It's important. It's going to make a big difference between, you know, what bands of writing you get. It's not all about your essay. Obviously, this is going to have a big impression on your mark too. So it's quite difficult, really, to think, okay, I've only got 150 words. This is quite simple. What am I going to do in those 20 minutes with those 150 words? What am I going to do to actually make my writing have a really positive impression? You see, it's really not very, when you look at it like this, it's different, isn't it, to when you're looking at it when you're writing with pens. You realize that you don't have an awful lot, you don't have a lot of words. So if you are asked to describe a process, it is absolutely, there's no option. You have to use the passive, basically, because we are describing something happening at each of these stages here. Okay. So let's just have a quick read together. To begin, the cocoa comes from the cacao tree, which is grown in South America and African continents, and the country of Indonesia. Once the pods are ripe and red, they are harvested, and the white cocoa beans are removed. Following a period of fermentation, they are then laid out on a large tray so they can dry under the sun. Next, they are placed into large sacks and delivered to the factory. They are then roasted at a temperature of 350 degrees, after which the beans are crushed and separated from their outer shell. In the final stage, this inner part that is left is pressed and the chocolate is produced. I mean, this is a good example of a good attempt at a part one answer, which is obviously why I'm showing it to you now. It's good because it is clear. It includes in sequence each of these stages. Now, this is just being used for a learning example. We will look at another process later in the lesson. The process that if you get it in the exam, is not going to be as straightforward as this, okay? So don't get too excited and think it's going to be like this. It's not. It's going to be probably a little bit more challenging than this, but this is just to show you, to help you learn. It's very good because obviously we're using it to demonstrate the passive. So it's used everywhere here. We've got is, are, is. Okay. We're using the present tense here because we are describing a process. This is another reason why you need to use the passive, because just by using the present simple throughout a whole description of a process, well, first of all, it's not going to be accurate because you're describing actions that are happening to an object. So you have to use the passive. But also, it's just too simple. There is no way that you're going to get a good grammar mark if you are just not using anything apart from the present simple. So you need to make sure that you're using the verb to be and the past participle. Okay, right. So at this point, Mohammed asked a very good question. Thank you, Mohammed, about the next part of the class. It's all exciting stuff. We're going multi-platform today. So what we're going to do okay. You can see in the chat box here, this is a Zoom link. Okay. So what is going to happen is that you can access this Zoom link. It was on the MPub Facebook page as well. So if you've got it before, that's great. Fine. So we are going to basically be continuing the class. So the next 30 minutes are going to be with me using the same documents, same presentation, but it's going to be over on Zoom. This is so we can get you writing questions to me, and then we can get a little bit more interaction going on, and you can contribute as well. So we are able to talk to each other, which is very exciting. So rather than just hearing me talk for the next 30 minutes, which you will, you are actually able to interact as well, which is great. So if you'd like to come and join me over on Zoom, that would be amazing. I'm going to be there now. You've got all of the information, how you need to join, and I will see you there. I'm going now. See you on Zoom. Bye, guys. See you in a second.